Welcome back, everybody. Derek Sue, your 2022 Oakland mayoral candidate. Today I want to talk about why I believe the future of Oakland is on the water. So, as you know, historically the Bay Area has always been a very popular area to move to, and we have a lot of work, we have a lot of lifestyle, we have a lot of amenities that are very enjoyable. We have boating, a huge boating industry. We have lots of fishing around here. We have lots of lakes for water skiing. We have snow in the mountains. We're just a few hours away from some of the best skiing in the world. We have wine country just an hour and a half away. We have arts and entertainment. We have everything right here in the San Francisco Bay Area. So that's why it's such a popular area. But then with that, for decades, we've been haunted by a lack of open space, which allows growth, housing growth, business growth, so all kinds of different things. So there's a lot of issues with open available land. And then when that land is available, it's very, very expensive. As we know, because Oakland just recently bought the Travelers Hotel at West Grand, and they spent $10 million just to secure the property, which I think is way overpriced. And then they spent another $4.4 million to rehab the unit, and that's going to just temporarily house 90 folks a year. And so, in terms of what you get for your money, not really good value if you look at $14.4 million and you're only going to house 90 people a year. That's a terrible ratio and not very effective use of taxpayers' monies. But we've always had a lack of open space, and the open space that we do have now is very, very expensive, and it's less desirable than some of the prime areas of Oakland. A lot of the areas that we have are next to freeways or next to public transportation such as BART or railroad tracks, or even worse, sitting on the fault line, the Hayward Fault in the Oakland Hills. So a lot of downsides to that, and that's why I believe the only way that we can truly fit more housing in is by using and filling these underutilized spaces in Oakland. Number one, we have the Outer Harbor, we have Middle Harbor, and we have Outer Harbor Terminal. So we have Outer Harbor at 100 acres, Middle Harbor at 101 acres, and we have Outer Harbor Terminal at 166 acres. So lots of area for development, and that is troubled right now because there's no master tenant, in fact no tenant right now. The tenant that is in there occasionally is on a as-needed basis for overflow of ships that come in and need to be offloaded. So back in 2006, the original master tenant was Hanjin. Hanjin was one of the world's largest shipping container companies in the world, and they went bankrupt. So when they went bankrupt, Port of Oakland lost $6 million a month of income. And that's has never been able to be recouped. And then also along with that, there's over 100,000 empty shipping containers sitting on the property that needs to be disposed of in some form. And so with that, those shipping containers we will now make as the skeleton frame units for our harbor communities, the homes. These are the outer shells. We can clean them and make them ready for usage as shelters and homes, or actually just mainframes for larger units. So there's a lot of different uses, and we have now secured multi-million dollars of materials just in the shipping containers for those floating homes. So that saves a tremendous amount of money. Plus, we're not expending a lot of money to get rid of something that we're going to use. And we're going to reuse it in a proper way that's environmentally friendly. So that takes care of that. That helps with a lot of the building materials. And that cuts costs. That helps keep the cost of these affordable homes down to a minimum. Also, we're not filling in the area, which was at a long time ago proposed to fill in Outer Harbor and fill in Middle Harbor. Not a very good idea. The agency that oversees projects like that, which is the Bay Conservation and Development Commission. It's a California government agency, and they oversee and regulate what can and cannot be done in San Francisco Bay and all the towns, cities, all the property that connects to the waters of San Francisco Bay and the Delta. So it extends to a very large area. But BCDC will not, we know for a fact, allow the filling of Outer Harbor or Middle Harbor. So that leaves that particular area still available, since we know that they won't allow that. And so that brings back to how can we use that particular area? And then I've had people who ask, well, you're going to harm the marine life there. Well, if you knew the area, the area has no real marine life because there's no structure there. It is just a wide open area. It's a muddy flat. There's nothing there. Not even shellfish are there. You have some migratory fish in the summer and during the mating seasons of the summer and fall, but other than that, it's pretty much barren of any kind of real sea life. And so what we're going to do by creating these floating communities, think of Venice, Italy. These homes that are right next to water, on top of the water, they're all built on pilings. We're not going to put pilings all over. We don't want that. We want to create a minimalistic environment for the marine environment, because we want to set up structure for shellfish and invertebrates to set up on. Then the invertebrates bring in the small bait fish bring in game fish and target fish, and it just goes from there. And then pretty soon we're probably going to see sea lions, seals in the area, because they have been known to frequent that area in the past. But the amount of sea life that we're going to be able to bring a new home to is going to be incredible, because back in the 60s and 70s there used to be a lot of marine life in the bay. As I remember catching rock cod right off of Treasure Island before it became too hazardous. And so there's a lot of things that we're going to do to enhance the marine and ecology here, along with enhancing housing for us people. Another agency that is going to be involved in the process of getting this approved is the Sierra Club. Sierra Club wants to see little to no harm done in the environment. So we've qualified on pretty much everything there. They have some other issues, but we've addressed all of those. Another agency that we're going to be having to work with is the Army Corps of Engineers, and that's a federal level agency. So they're not really a big deal. A big problem is they're the ones who want to see the environmental impact report. Environmental impact report will take about 1 year to produce and get to them. So those are all the major ones that are going to be involved. And then the last agency that's really going to be involved, because it affects them and their bottom line, which is the Port of Oakland. So Port of Oakland, they lost $6 million of income when Hanjin went bankrupt and left. So they haven't been able to recoup that money, and it's been a struggle for Port of Oakland since. But with this new community, we're not only going to bring that income back, but they're also going to see a likely increase of anywhere from their old $6 million to $8.5 million, and then as high as $12 million of income every month. So that's a big incentive for Port of Oakland to help us move forward with this project. And so that's a real critical cooperation that we're going to be doing with Port of Oakland and City of Oakland. So those are the major agencies. There's also one other agency that's going to be involved in this, and that's the Bay Area Air Quality Management District. And that's because of the discharges of the ventilation for the composting toilets, because they vent to the outside. Also the evaporators for the gray water, they vent to the outside. So those they need assurances that it's just water vapor that's going out into the atmosphere to be permitted, because there is going to be a permit process for each one of them. Typically, that's what I've always dealt with Bay Area Air Quality Management District. But anyway, those are some of the agencies. They're going to be part of this. Again, the high cost of land here in the Bay Area, then the low amount of land that's available, and then when you do get it available, it's going to be a slow process to get the approval so that you can actually break ground and start the construction. In some cases, it can be as long as 10 years, but average would be 5 years. But normal is 10 years before ground breaks. And an example of that is, look at San Francisco that bought that McDonald's in that troubled area. They bought the McDonald's last year for $14 million, but yet can't tear it down, because they have to do an environmental impact report before they can start their project, which means the demolition of the old McDonald's building and the property. They have to meet certain requirements, and then so they're trying to figure out what to do with the property. Actually, for 10 years is what they said. So that's just reinforcing what I'm just letting you folks know. That a lot of environmentalists that I've been speaking to, those of you that have been contacting me, I hear you, and it's truly been fun working with the environmentalists here, because I've got some that come on really hot and heavy and telling me that there's absolutely no way that this project's going to get approved or moving forward. It's dead in the water, and a lot of negatives. So my thing to you is, and what I've been telling them is, like, really, and that's your stance, and you're absolutely sure of that, and they stand fast on the fact that the floating cities will not get approved. I said, well, okay, well, I'll tell you something that used to be dead and gone also. Back in the mid-60s, the key system, the ferry system, closed down officially. BCDC declared them dead and never to return again. And then a little thing in 1989 happened called the Loma Prieta earthquake. Dropped one deck of the Bay Bridge, shut down all the Bay bridges to cross over to the peninsula or San Francisco. So that made it impossible for people to get across the bay or come back to the East Bay, other than BART. And BART was shut down also because those tubes had to be inspected. And so the tour systems in San Francisco, Red and White Ferry, the Blue and Gold, and another operator at that time, they were employed by the region to ferry people to and from, and so that's how our ferry system got reestablished. It was only supposed to be temporary for 30 days, then it got extended to 1 year. After the 1 year, they saw so much value in it that they decided to make it a permanent fixture. Even though that it was declared dead, it has now been revived, and it is full of life, because in the next 5 years it's predicted that the ferry system will be adding on at least 4 new stops throughout the Bay Area. They're in progress right now, so I can't disclose them, but it's interesting because now our ferry fleet in the next 5 years will triple. It will triple in size as to what it is right now. We have smaller, faster, and more economically run boats, so they can get you across the water just as fast, if not faster, than traffic. So it's one of those things that came back from the past. It's now brought up to modern technology, and it's very efficient. So that's what we're doing with the floating communities. We're taking something that is from the past, which are the old houseboats that people lived on. We see them all over here in the Bay Area. We see them in Alameda, we see them in Sausalito, and other areas. So that it's not like they don't exist here in the Bay Area. They do exist, but now we're going to put new technologies to them, and we're going to add amenities such as solar. And with the new solar systems that we're going to be putting onto these floating homes, that makes them 85% efficient. 85% efficiency from the sun that they receive throughout the day. So that is really incredibly good with today's technologies and standards. And with that, your solar will power everything in your home, including heat your home and the water, everything. You're going to generate your own electricity through the solar, and then we're also going to have a backup on a lot of homes, which is the fans, the solar wind turbines, like you see out at the Altamont, but on a smaller version to an individual floating home. And then that way we utilize not only the sun, but we utilize wind also, so that there's always going to be a good supply of power to your home, no matter what your electrical demands are going to be. There's going to be plenty of electricity. Plus, with this, the nice thing, you're not going to have utility bills because you're generating your own electricity, you're manufacturing your own water. You're self-sustained. Also, with this community, we're not building on the dangerous earthquake, because everybody here in the Bay Area is concerned with earthquakes. Well, with a floating community, that no longer becomes a concern. Earthquakes are not going to damage your home when you're floating on the water. You're going to feel some bumping, because I have been on the water when an earthquake has occurred, and you just feel the bumping, and it's a vibration. It's not a big deal. But with the floating homes, you don't have the danger of it falling down or collapsing, catching fire, because of the collapse, or even burning up, like in the Oakland Hills fires. You won't have that because all of these homes are going to have a steel frame and steel shell. Your fires are going to be very self-contained to within that unit or within a very small confined of area. So it makes them very, very efficient, cost-wise, makes them very comfortable. And another thing that I want to let you folks know, that this floating community is going to have protections. There's going to be incremental. It's going to change incrementally, but the priority is for folks who are really struggling. These homes, if you make here in Oakland, we have recalculated this now, we can actually get you into a home if you make $38,000 a year of income. We can get you into one of our floating community homes. We have just found a way, and that's going to be great for everybody. We've got protections in there to prevent those that are looking to just profit. You're not going to be able to do that in this community. There are protections that are in place to keep that from happening. And one of my main concerns is here in Oakland is that our current leadership and our past leadership has not prepared the city for emergencies. I'm going to prepare the city for emergencies. We're going to have, with the cruise ships, we're going to set up redundant systems, places where the police will have their office and command center. FEMA will have a command center. The city of Oakland will now have a secondary command center with power, electric, communications. Everything's going to be there. And that's what these ships are going to do. Along with these used cruise ships, they're also going to provide backup electricity in the event of an emergency, such as an earthquake where PG&E shuts down all this power. We can actually power a portion of the city with those ships. And then we can also manufacture plenty of drinking water should our EB mud system go down and not be available. We can still provide folks with plenty of clean drinking water. Also, along with the used cruise ships, we can also store tons and pallets of emergency food for that future eventuality. And that way, the city of Oakland is now prepared, because right now, the city will be in worse shape than you are should an emergency happen. The city will be in worse shape than you are. So you can't depend on the city to come to your aid in an emergency. When that big earthquake hits, the city will not respond. The city will not respond. And so I am preparing Oakland and our residents for that eventuality, and make that event less unfortunate. Try and ease people through, because if we have tons of stored food, that the freeze-dried food and instant food that can be rehydrated and cooked with water. We have the water generation, water making systems from the ships. We have electricity. So there's going to be a lot of things that are going to happen in an emergency. But these are the core things that are going to help the city survive and get back on its feet very quickly. We're going to be able to adapt and react very quickly. Much better shape than where we are right now, which is in a state of no preparation for any emergency. So, but anyway, just in closing, the floating community is going to happen, whether it happens if you elect me, or it's going to happen sometime in the future. Eventually, the floating community is coming to the Bay Area. And it can come to all of the West Coast. We can get rid of the homeless problem. When we get rid of the homeless problem, we also get rid of and reduce crime. So we're doing a lot of good things with this. We solve a lot of issues. So anyway, that's why I see the floating community as Oakland's future, and I hope that you support that. Look around, look at the information that I am posting here for you to look at. Also do research on your own. I encourage you to research this on your own, to let you know that this is truth, this is fact, and this is coming. This is coming. So anyway, thank you everybody for listening today. That's my reason for the floating communities, and stay tuned. I've got a lot of great things ahead.